What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's been a long time. Tonight, we're lucky to have a good long-time friend, Jared Zimbardo, on the show with us tonight. So, what's up, man? How's it going?
Thanks for having me on, Pat and Dylan. It's really nice to be on here and get to talk to some guys that I've met while playing ball in the MAC conference. That's where it all comes back to, right?
No, for sure, for sure. Can you kind of start off by telling us about your high school recruiting? We'll go way back to Quinnipiac, and before we get into everything, how'd you come about Quinnipiac and just that whole process?
Yeah, so I was one of the neglected high school recruits, as most of us were. Undersized, very athletic, hardworking, but really never caught any of the big schools' eyes. Had to work extremely hard to find where we found where we're going to potentially go to school in college. So, thankful to my coach, John Delaney at Quinnipiac, for really paying attention to that side of the game, the hardworking mentality, just going out there and like letting it all eat no matter what, spring on and off the field, like just, he was a huge advocate for that. And that's something that I was taught growing up throughout high school, and kind of what made me into who I was, just motivated to get out there every day. And it wasn't just to show it. That's just the way it was. Like for me, it's like that type of mentality. Like that's how I love the game, by playing it as hard as possible. I'm sure you guys can attest to that as well. So, yeah, in high school, just kind of was a hustler, two-way player. I actually pitched and was a closer. I started a lot of high school games, but I truthfully was a closer. Played a lot of center field, played the outfield, had some state recognition, played in the Garden State games, which I was extremely grateful to play in. That's kind of what gave me my opportunity to be able to be showcased in front of a bunch of different college coaches. So I had some small schools like Seton Hall, Quinnipiac, and whatnot. Let's see, what else? What other schools? Rutgers a little bit. Monmouth recruited me. Ryder had some say in it. Sacred Heart, and then there's a selection of other schools as well. But everything was somewhat small, small mid major, and yeah, just luckily stumbled across Quinnipiac, and the coaches there just had so much trust in me to come in, and that's when I kind of knew, hey, this is going to be my spot for 4 years. So, and then the whole entire process started that summer when like COVID hit. Going into Quinnipiac, I didn't know what to expect. Walked in, things were a little bit abnormal, but really felt comfortable with getting situated and settled into school and living a normal college life, and then as well as that, doing school. And yeah, it's kind of my first taste was it was a little bit rough, though, to say the least, as well as it was for all of us. We all fought through some problems. Like at the end of the day, we weren't going to class every day. We were doing class online for at least the first semester for most people. And you guys even saw, for instance, the Ivy Leagues didn't play for an extra year. So it just goes to show that time was kind of really hard to settle in. But after that, then college was completely normal again, and we finally got back to the way things were, and we're on the field again, grinding and whatnot. So yeah, I just, like I said, I just really enjoyed it. Enjoyed my career at Quinnipiac for the 4 years that I was there, and was grateful to meet a lot of people. So
No, for sure. I even remember like every time you'd be playing you guys, like you were like the most energetic guy. Like you come up to the plate, like
yeah,
ready to go at all times. So that's like
always.
definitely great to see in a college baseball player, like somebody who's ready to go and just ready to take on any challenge they can to like shine.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of part of it, right? Like kind of fit the role, like kind of act out the way that you feel like you would see yourself, right? Like, so it's like, all right, like how do I want to see myself if I'm looking at myself from the third person, right? So that's kind of the way I always thought about it.
No,
And that,
for sure. Could you tell kind of everybody about what the MAC conference was like, what Quinnipiac was like? Because I know Pat and I will have a bunch of stories that we can kind of share after,
yeah,
and we can get into it and have some laughs. But we know how crazy and hectic the MAC conference can be, and I feel like people kind of look down on it a little bit. I mean, not so much anymore because we see all the guys transferring like ourselves. I mean, I went to Louisville, you're at Notre Dame now, and then Pat went to Seton Hall.
yeah.
But people kind of underlook us a little bit.
Yeah, always. At the end of the day, most people are going to do that because they, either played at a bigger school for a long time or they just, that's just their standpoint, which is just completely false because at the end of the day, you take some of our teams and what we had, and a lot of those guys ended up making it to play at the highest level. And then a lot of the guys from the higher level teams are the ones that sit the bench for 2 or 3 years, and then they end up having to go to a smaller school to play. So, I mean, for us, we called it the Maction. Like, that's where it was at. We were gritty teams. Every team was a gritty team. I don't care if you were the team that was on the bottom that had 2 or 3 wins. There were guys on that team that could just either swing it, go out there and ball out, or guys that would go out there and throw hard for no reason. Like, I don't know if you guys remember that one guy from Iona. He was big, like ginger kid. He was up to like 97. Like, dude, if that kid could just figure it out, he probably would have been a kid who would have been drafted in the top 10 rounds, and he would have been disgusting. 60 ERA guy. He was supposed to come in and be a dog for Siena and, have a chance for a lot of looks and whatnot. There's a lot of good talent and recruits that come through the MAC, whether it ends up panning out for them or it doesn't. I mean, you see what it's done for a lot of hitters and pitchers that needed more development, more attention to detail. Just, to start somewhere. It's a perfect starting point, and then you can work off of that, make the connections that you need to make, play good baseball, see what it's like to be on a team that's either winning or that's losing, that you feel like you don't see eye to eye with, and then it can motivate you for the future and where you want to go next potentially.
Yeah, I mean, you even look at the Mount this past year.
Yeah.
Like the one kid, Devin Sheeran, I mean, coming out and throwing like 95 plus every
Oh,
single.
is he going to LSU now? Is that him?
Now he's at LSU like a year later. It's just crazy. Like the MAC is a lot of great players, and all it takes is one good season, and then if you want to look for another option, I mean, he's just one of many examples. I mean, going from the MAC.
Doing 100%. We have Byram over here. Byram, the shortstop last year from Marist, he was a freshman All-American that year. Then look at Ethan Conrad. I want to make that point real quick. I mean, I'm sure you guys both know him. But look at he's bursting onto the scene. I think he was projected by a few things to like first round now. I mean, dude.
That's crazy. But hey, more triples and doubles in a season. The slugging doesn't lie. Just the percentages right there. His player development, I mean, that's a dude that can go out there and just flat out ball. Like, he just doesn't care. Like, he's gritty. He's an athlete, and he's just, he's going to do whatever it takes. Yeah. Jackson Strong getting drafted this year in the 7th round.
Yeah, I mean,
he's potentially going to go to Kentucky, but, playing against a guy like that, like a lot of guys in this conference really possess a lot of good. I mean, looking at you guys facing you, Pat, like, you're a good freaking lefty arm, and
appreciate
and
that.
Dylan, you like playing against you. I never saw you take a playoff whatsoever. I think you might have robbed me 3 or 4 times up the middle on base hits that I should have had, and that just didn't.
I remember those. They're good old days, but let's kind of circling back on you, bro. You're a toolsy guy. You're a freaking beast of a player. Now you're at Notre Dame. Like, let's talk about that real quick. Just take a step back and obviously recognize what type of player you are, but let's talk about that process as well too. I mean, what do you think that you did well to kind of fit into Notre Dame's eyes? You know what I mean? Kind of fit their role of a player that we needed, and then how was that process as well for you?
Yeah, so I mean, the nice thing is that you look at a lot of these big schools, whether they're ACC, SEC, Sun Belt, they all appreciate a guy that's hardworking, that puts his head down, and that has development in their minds and understands that this person's like working towards something. Because for me, I'll be honest, it wasn't like, I was always hardworking, but it wasn't always like I understood my own player development. It took me a good amount of time to be able to understand what I needed to do as a player to be able to fit the role of being able to play on a team like this. And sometimes that's taking away the ego. Because I would have to say my junior year, I had probably one of the biggest egos on the field, because I thought like, all right, like I'm just going to blast balls and I'm going to be that pump guy. And it ended up working out like that. But my average tanked from my sophomore year to my junior year because I was thinking about power numbers, and I kind of frayed from the type of role that I needed to buy into. And honestly, like, I really appreciate what ND has done for me, like, as in giving me a great opportunity to come here and just keep advancing my type of role that they feel that I fit the best and where I can be most successful for them and to help, you know, just be able to get back to Omaha and do something special this year. And they basically said, like, listen, like, we understand that you're not a guy that's going to go out there and be that pump guy, but you can slug for a high percentage and you're a guy that can see a lot of pitches and find ways to get on base and find ways to steal bags for us. And that's exactly what my coaches praised me for at Quinnipiac, what they had in mind for building me into. And I wish that I took note of that a little bit sooner, because once I fully grasped that my senior year, I was the most stubborn kid in the world, but it's all for the right reasons. And I'm sure you guys can vouch for that as well. Once you understand what type of player you are and what you need to do to be successful, you will not let anyone tell you anything different. And if that takes you going through the 4-hole as a hitter and hitting every ball low on a line lower than the L screen to get right and get your mind ready for the game, then that's what it's going to take. But that's kind of what it was for me. Just buy into an approach, understand that, like, you need to eliminate certain pitches when you get up to the plate, and then you need to take advantage of your strengths. And basically what that was just really like tuning into using drills and just focusing on my batting practice rounds on the field pre-game, before every game, just stuff like that. It's small stuff, but it adds up. If there's attention to detail, you're going to find a way to be successful. So that's kind of like what I would say. And like I said before, the coaches recognize that at ND, and they've been able to give me some more drills and help me advance my understanding of my identity and what I'm doing to be even better for this upcoming season and be able to compete against some really good ACC arms. So I'm really appreciative of that. And like I said, like, just thank my hitting coach, John Mulaney. He was my head coach at Quinnipiac. Without him, I wouldn't have been able to break some of the records that I was able to break this past year. So,
Of course. I mean, even just like we were talking about the type of player you are, like college baseball today, I feel it's gotten into more of a power game where everybody's got to be throwing super hard. You got to be hitting balls out of the yard, but it's starting to lose a bit of the identity, like kind of like a type of player that you are, who's like stealing a lot of bags, like just hitting balls in the gap, and especially like bringing some of that to a school like Notre Dame, like that's a huge plus, just because there's not too many guys out there like that, you know, somebody who's high energy, like going out every single play, just hitting any ball he can to like just get on base, like that's huge for a program.
yes, sir.
So kind of touching on that real quick, why don't you two things. So first we can go kind of share with us, like, some records that you were breaking over at Quinnipiac. I mean, we know you're one of the all-time guys over there for some stuff. So why don't you just share and break down that real quick? Like, we're talking to kind of a legend in the making right here.
Yeah. Well, actually it was one, but I consider the 1 year that I was on the team my junior year, in which we broke the home run records and we broke all the hitting records, like, for me to be counted as a vote in that. So I broke my head coach's all-time walks record, and then I broke his walks in a single season record.
Which, dude, is amazing, because that's going to translate for you in the ACC this year. I know last year there was a lot of guys, they love to attack off speed and try to be around the zone and get you to chase. So the better eye that you can have, that's not only going to correlate for your walks, but it's going to help your stolen bags too. Because, I mean, you're going to be getting on base a ton this year. So kind of for that reason, I'm hoping that we don't play you guys. That's one less of the pain that we have to worry about.
Yeah.
But what are some, I know you mentioned it before, which I thought was fantastic, about knowing what type of player you are, and that's going to help you out with not only playing, but kind of your daily routine and work ethic. But what are some messages that you would kind of say to some younger guys that are playing, or some dudes that are about to go through the transfer portal, or some dudes that are about it being the recruiting process to go to college? Like, what are just some things you would say?